The Styx crew has been gracious to show us almost every aspect of their show. Let's dive a little deeper. We got to sit down with Tracy Wiedemann, and she was incredible. Just one of the most genuinely cool people that I've ever had the pleasure to sit down and talk with. I'm super interested in seeing the back end of the music business in this light, because the management side of a tour has always interested and baffled me. Tracy was able to offer insights that if this is something that you're interested in, or you want to know how a band interacts with a venue or how vice versa, she's seen all sides of this. And this is very one-dimensional in the conversation, but she made it known as we left, when the cameras were off, that if we want to have a follow-up, she's more than willing to do that. So if there are questions that you guys have beyond this, and this is something that you want to go down, I'm highly interested in this. And if you guys are, she's more than happy to talk about it. And this is really exciting to me because the more this gets out there, the more we have access to do stuff like this with not just Styx, and they've been super gracious to show us everything that we've had questions about, but the possibility of getting with other tours as well. So if this is something that you guys are interested in, please hit the like button, comment that you are interested in stuff like this, or other aspects of tours that you do want to see. Thank you so much, Tracy, for sitting down and talking with us. This video has no sponsor, so be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Let's get right into it.
Great.
First, thank you
You're welcome.
for sitting down to do this.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I've been very excited to have this conversation because, being in a recording studio, playing live, we can see the crew,
Right.
we can see the band. That's very tangible.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff behind the scenes, production manager, tour managing, that's it's very woo-woo to a lot of people. And I feel like we can see the business and appreciate what that is, but knowing exactly what that goes down
Right.
can be very interesting for people. And what is this world? There's a whole other side to this that
Sure.
we just aren't really exposed to. So, thank you,
You're
first
welcome.
of all.
Yeah.
Real quick, would you mind saying your name and your title for the tour?
Sure. Tracy Wiedemann, tour manager for Styx.
Okay. I'm Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
So, if you had to describe, in a quick nutshell, what you do.
Uh-huh.
I know they were telling you, I asked, explain it to my 7-year-old.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't work, that's totally fine. What is it, if you had to zoom out 30,000 feet, what do you do on a tour as a tour manager?
The easiest way to explain it is the moment someone steps out their front door until the moment they get back, I'm telling them how they're getting there, where they're going, what time they have to be there, and then getting them back home. So basically, the moment you step out your front door, if you're catching a flight, you're renting a car, whatever that may be, and then I'm telling them where you're staying, what hotel you're in, and then, what time. Everything else then is on a time schedule from there. Once we land together in a hotel, then that's when our crew and our band separates into different parties. And then I'm working directly with the band party, letting them know, okay, tomorrow you're going to be in city XYZ. Luggage call is this time, departure from the hotel is this time, show time is this time, and this is when we're leaving. And then throughout the day, coming up here real soon, I'll start giving 90 minutes to show to them, 60 minutes to show, hour to walk, that sort of thing. So basically it's a kind of a glorified travel agent.
Okay.
But then I'm also responsible for getting the band paid. So there's a financial aspect that comes into it as well. But also it's important to know that there's different facets of being a tour manager for different bands. So a tour manager, I've actually been a tour manager where I've also had to be the production manager. Some tour managers don't do the financial aspect. There's a tour accountant. So there's different facets of the role tour manager based on the band you're working for and the project you're working for, the size of the project that you're working for.
So on a tour like this. I gather you are doing a little bit of the financials. You're doing
Yes, I am.
organizational admin.
Yeah.
Is there like a certain level of like intangible stuff that you're doing with the band?
I would say every moment of every day. You don't know what's coming at you when it's coming at you. Because another part of my role too is making sure that the band is as comfortable as possible and helping to facilitate their needs. And that can be a hodgepodge of things. So you never know from day to day what that could be.
This is the fascinating part for somebody who's taking a step back and looking at like a tour.
Yeah.
That's moving and rebuilding itself day in, day out. Like the odd thing to think about is there's a group of individuals that have to do that. I mean, the crew is one thing, but the band, their mindset, I imagine, has to be protected just as much as like and controlling as many things around that to make sure that their performance can be as good as possible.
Sure, and that is part of the trick too, and that's what I'm saying. We want to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible at all times. So that can be, in the hotel, in the dressing room, the people that surround them, the places we're going. If it's days off, the things we're doing, that can all play a part. We try to not have them in situations where anything's going to upset them, so to speak, if that makes sense. But if we have a comfortable environment around them, the happier they're going to be.
So doing this now, I imagine your background was kind of surrounded by managing. Like, were you a tour? How did you get to touring manager? Did you come from working on the venue side? Did you?
Oh, actually, yes. Actually, I worked on the promoter side.
Okay.
So I started when I was 18. I worked for Fay Concerts, a gentleman by the name of Barry Fay. So back in the day where it was the individual promoter. So that actually has helped me because I saw how shows were initially booked from the very beginning from the local aspect and working the shows. And I was assistant media director when I ended working with Barry Fay, and I was working the shows every night. So I would get to see it from the onset, from when a promoter actually booked the show, and then everything that it entails for a promoter, everything he goes through to get to us today. So when I transferred into touring, when I stepped off a tour bus, I understood everything that was happening for us to get to that point where we're stepping off the tour bus into your venue.
So I imagine from like a logistical standpoint, you have a really good idea of what that side could provide for you.
Yes, absolutely. Because I've lived it.
Is there a fair bit of like negotiation that happens as well?
That's actually on the management agent side.
Okay.
So that's before it gets to me.
So one question I always find interesting is if you were put in a position that you were to look for somebody to replace your job and you wanted to be like, I love this job, I know what goes into it, and you had to find a replacement and you were part of like figuring out who that would be, what are like a few of the questions that you would ask that individual in an interview? Or what are some aspects that you would look for in somebody?
I would say, that's an interesting question because it's a combination of not only skill set and knowledge base, but it's also personality. I would want to, of course, find someone who can fulfill the admin side and the financial aspect and the organizational aspect and the logistics. But it also comes down to the personality, because we have an entire mix of all these different personalities here, and you need a certain personality set that will get along with all of those personalities. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So personality is a lot of it too.
Can you think of anything else? I don't want to keep you too long,
Oh,
so
no,
I'm
that's
trying
fine.
to like.
That's fine.
Are there any like milestones or key points that you can fill us in on?
Yeah, actually. When I started touring, my very first tour when I transitioned from the local aspect to the touring aspect was my very first tour was Styx, REO Speedwagon, and Journey, Classic Rock's main event in 2003. So I was working with Tim Rosner, who is the tour production director for the overall package tour, and I was his tour coordinator. So I worked on all these co-headline tours up until this last year, actually. So all these years, except for one, when I was tour managing Marilyn Manson, I've worked on the the package tour. So the tour manager that has been with Styx forever recently retired. And so then the band knew me and selected me to be the tour manager based on our relationship over the past years and working with them since 2003. So
very much being good at what you do, knowing
Yeah.
people, making
Yes.
connections.
yes.
The hang factor.
Yes, yeah, that's a huge part of it. It really is. It's like you have to kind of fit into that mold, and if you don't, nobody wants you around. So that's a huge part because we live together here on this bus. This is our home. So we have to be able to get along with each other just from a personal aspect too. Otherwise, it makes you miserable if you're on tour with somebody that you don't get along with, or that's an asshole. It makes life miserable. It really does.
Imagine.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing to wrap it up,
Yeah.
if there were people who are like, yes, I would love to do that. What would be like the first few steps they could take to eventually end up doing what you're doing?
I always recommend starting locally, whether you're starting as a runner or like I started when I was 18. I started at Faye as receptionist and then just worked my way through the ranks, so to speak. I always say start local and then get that knowledge base, develop those relationships. It doesn't matter what you're doing, working in the box office, if you're a runner, working in production, whatever the case may be. If you're a receptionist, just start somewhere locally and just work into the fold and just work your way up the ladder, work through it and just gain that knowledge base. Like I'm so thankful that I understand, like I said, when I walk off the tour bus, everything that's taken place to get us to show day makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I don't want to take any
Thank
more
you.
of your time.
Thank
I know you're
you.
busy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you guys made it to the end, you're a champ. Thank you. Stay tuned and make sure to hit the subscribe button because there is more behind the scenes stuff with production managers coming with Styx. We got to sit down and talk to them and pick their brains. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next one.